What is home? I think that's a very important question. And I think that's a question that sometimes changes. So when I first came here as a camper, it wasn't home. And I remember when I had friends that would invite me on time off to their homes in Boston and in Quincy. I remember taking the Mass Pike and knowing that I was going to somebody else's home, and that road didn't take me home. And I wished it would take me home. And I remember for many years taking the trip between Boston and the Berkshires, hoping to go home. And when I came back later as an adult and I got married and I had the opportunity to come back to the Berkshires and work here, every time I take the Pike from Boston to the Berkshires, I know I'm going home. At one point, this wasn't my home. Then it became my home, and it just was home. I actually think I took it for granted. I just was able to raise my children here. We moved to the Berkshires when my daughter, who is turning 21, was 1 month old. So this was home. This is where I became an adult. This is where I was a mother. This is where I experienced the most important chapter of my life. And I was very comfortable at home. And then there was an election that shattered the links and the bonds that existed among people who didn't necessarily agree on everything, especially politically. And that was an incredible thing that I didn't even think I would ever experience in my life. But the rupture, the schism, was so violent and so abrupt and so in your face and so painful that it made me sick. It made me sick. It made me very sad. And there were people who all of a sudden would point their finger at my face. And I'm not speaking figuratively, I'm speaking literally. And remind me that if me and my people didn't want to follow the rules, or if me and my people didn't want to be here, we better get out. And I thought, well, wasn't I part of you? Wasn't I part of your people? Don't I work for you? Because as much as I work for the immigrant community is less than 11% of our student body, of the people who live in Berkshire County. So I also work for the 90-something% or 89% of the people, and I serve them with the same care and passion as I serve the immigrant community, because I do see a human being as a human being. So that was very painful for me and very difficult, and seeing my parents get older in another country and aging and having some health issues and feeling a rejection and anger on my own personal part, I left. I left the Berkshires. And I didn't know where home was. I lost my home. And I lived in Mexico, I was physically in the country where I had been born, where I'd been raised, where my family was, but it wasn't home. It wasn't the people that I work with, that I go to church with, that help me raise my children, that agree with me philosophically in widening the table. But it was also very reassuring that this is my home. And some people might not like it, and some people might have issues with it, and I want to welcome them to the same table where I'm sitting at, so they can see me as their neighbor, because I am. And I fight and I work and I live for the same ideals that they do. I might have an accent, but in the core, we are all seeking the same thing. So what is home for me? It's this place.